And so we will record the session, and with permission from Jason, we will gladly share this on the KSpan website and also to the participants who registered for the event. Um, and I am okay. I want to thank you for joining us today for the KSpan workshop on an update from the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. During this session, we will learn about Safe Kentucky, Kentucky's 2020-2024 Strategic Highway Safety Plan, opportunities to get involved with improving highway safety in Kentucky, and 2020 highway safety trends. It is my pleasure to introduce Jason from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Jason currently serves as an Assistant State Highway Engineer for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, where he works with partners across the 4 E's of highway safety to prevent serious injuries and deaths on public roadways of the Commonwealth and on implementing innovations throughout the cabinet. I would now like to turn over the webinar to Jason. Thank you, Jason.
All right, thank you so much. Steve, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. Excited to be here with you today, especially with a group like this, speaking about the alignment of safety and prevention. I think that's really important. I'm going to get into that a little bit in my presentation here. So one thing that I'd like to just address from a housekeeping standpoint, this is one of those, I'm doing a highway safety discussion here. And so as Steve mentioned, this is going to be recorded, and would very much appreciate it if you were not participating in driving. When we're driving, we need to be doing just that, driving, and we don't want to be a distraction for you out there on the roadway. So if you were planning on participating while driving to a destination today, we would just ask that you not do that and that you catch the recording afterwards. So thank you. So I'm going to start by just explaining a little bit about highway safety in Kentucky and where we've been to inform the conversation on where we're going. So from 2009 to 2018, approximately 7,425 deaths on Kentucky roadways, on Kentucky's public roadways, excuse me. And that's a hard number for people to conceptualize. And if you think about that, that's a 10-year period, between 740 and 750 deaths every year. So looking at that over that decade, that would be like one of our moderately sized cities just disappearing from the map. So think Mount Sterling, Corbin, Highland Heights, Middletown, Russellville. And we can't change what has already happened, but we can look to change and prevent what might happen tomorrow. And so that's why I'm really excited to be given the opportunity not only to speak with this group, but to work with this group, because prevention is so ingrained into the mindset of what it is that KSpan does. And so during my presentation today, I am going to talk some about numbers, but I never want for anybody to mistake. When we talk about safety, when we talk about prevention, when we talk about these things, safety, whether that be highway safety or employee safety, it's not about numbers. It's about people. It's about your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and your communities, and our communities. And so I never want to go in and have a discussion about highway safety where I'm talking some about numbers, and I'm talking and not recognize that the reason why we talk about these numbers is because every one of those represents someone that's important to us. So I always like to start there. I know this group is keenly aware of that, but just wanted to make sure that I drove that point home. So let's talk a little bit about Safe KY, which is Kentucky's Strategic Highway Safety Plan. You can see that kind of over my shoulder, I think, in my Zoom picture here. And our Strategic Highway Safety Plan, this is something that we develop every 5 years, and it serves as kind of the overarching or umbrella document to inform highway safety activities. And those aren't just activities of the Transportation Cabinet or the Office of Highway Safety. Those are highway safety activities undertaken by organizations such as this one, by other cabinets, by other private and public entities. And so let's talk a little bit about this document and where we're trying to head. So the first thing I want to mention is that we've laid out a bold goal, and that is to be under 500 highway deaths per year by 2024. And obviously we know when we talk about serious injuries and deaths that 0 is the goal that we are all striving to obtain. But if you remember from a few slides ago, talking about a recent 10-year period where we had an average of between 740 and 750 deaths per year on the highways, this represents a lot of prevention activities between now and 2024 if we're going to meet this goal. And so it is aggressive. But like I said before, when you really think about this not being about numbers, each one of those lives lost that we can prevent is significant. It's significant to a lot of different people in a lot of different places. And again, another reason why I'm so excited to be speaking to this group is that there's a focus on prevention. And I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Ashley Bush, who was a part of our planning team for the Strategic Highway Safety Plan this time around. We definitely wanted to be discussing not only with our public health partners, but also with our prevention partners here at KSPAN and specifically at UK at Kipperick, how to look at highway safety more focused on prevention. And so we're very excited to have the partnership of different folks in this group as we look to implement. But as we were looking at how to put this document together and how to communicate about safety to others, we're very thankful to have Dr. Bush on our planning committee and our panel there. So, and then one other thing that I wanted to mention just high level is that there are 6 emphasis areas that we are looking at in our Strategic Highway Safety Plan from 2020 to 2024. And those are things that should be familiar to just about everyone. Those 6 are aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving, occupant protection, vulnerable road users, and roadway departure. And we're going to get into a little bit more about each of those in a little bit. But one of the things that I want to mention is that in our previous Strategic Highway Safety Plan, we had 11 emphasis areas, and it's very difficult to create focus and momentum in 11 different areas. So we really tried to pare down those emphasis areas so that we could get people working collaboratively together and create some momentum. So I know that this is something that this group is very near and dear to this group, but oftentimes when you hear people talking about highway safety, we talk about reduction. Reduce towards 0 is a common theme, or just reduce from last year or from previous time periods. And one of the things that we learned along the process was why it's so important to talk about prevention instead of reduction. And I'm certainly not a communications professional, but one of the things that I like to say when we talk about this is I can't reduce what happened yesterday. I can't change the results from yesterday. I can't change outcomes from yesterday. So last year we had 732 deaths on the public roadways here in the Commonwealth, and for all of my activities that I do either within my office or within the highway safety community, when we look back a decade from now, that number is going to be the same. That's going to be 732 lives lost in 2019. And so when we talk about prevention, it makes people look at it a little bit differently and think about it a little bit differently. And so we're very encouraged by the ability to communicate a little bit differently about highway safety and talk about the fact that what our activities are aimed at preventing serious outcomes, preventing loss of life, preventing serious injuries. And when we talk about zero-based messaging, that obviously our goal, again, is to have zero deaths and zero serious injuries as a result of car crashes. There's a lot of folks that kind of struggle with that concept because of how ingrained it's become, that these things are, quote, just a part of life. And it might be the kind of the same thing that people think about when they think about the difference between the terminology of accident versus collision or crash. And so when we talk about prevention, we're talking about actionable things that people can do, not only from our standpoint as highway safety professionals or as public health professionals or as communications professionals, but each one of us, as we're behind the wheel or if we're using the transportation system, different mode, bicycle, pedestrian, scooter, anything like that. When we talk about prevention, those are things that we can do out there on the system to prevent serious injuries and deaths each day going forward. And so over on the right of this slide, that is an exhibit from the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and what it shows is days in 2018 where there were zero highway deaths as a result of crashes on the system. And that's approximately 1 day in 6 in 2018. And so when we talk about what effect these prevention focus and these prevention activities can have, each day that we strike midnight, we have an opportunity that day to have a day where there are zero deaths, zero serious injuries. And as we work through our process and as we work with partners such as yourself, the opportunities there to prevent a great number of serious injuries and deaths until one day when we actually do have zero for a long sustained period of time. And so I mentioned these emphasis areas a little bit before, but I'll go through them quickly again. Aggressive driving deals a lot with driving behavior such as speeding, disregarding traffic control, following too closely, weaving in traffic, failure to yield, improper passing, those sorts of things. And so, that's kind of a wide swath. A major contributor there, obviously, is speed. One of the things that we have seen in 2020, we had for a period due to the pandemic, a lot less travel than we had as far as vehicle miles traveled than we had in previous years. But we did not see a significant dip in crashes that correlated with that reduced travel. And one of the things that we noticed, speaking to law enforcement partners and did some data analysis as well, is that on our higher type facilities, we had people that were traveling at increased speeds. And anybody who is familiar with highway safety knows that when you do have a crash and you do have increased speeds, you do have an increased chance for serious outcomes. And so aggressive driving is a big contributor to our serious outcomes here in Kentucky, and something that we're looking over the life of this strategic highway safety plan to address. So distracted driving is next. We did a series of webinars kind of introducing the strategic highway safety plan to the highway safety community, to the transportation community. And we did some polling there that I'm not going to do today, but most folks in those webinars and most folks that I've asked just anecdotally as we've done speaking engagements about this document have identified distracted driving as an opportunity or a challenge that we can address going forward. And so, obviously that's cell phone usage, but it's also anything that takes your eyes, your mind, or your hands off the wheel, if you will. But takes your mind away from the task of driving, takes your eyes off the road, or takes your hands off the wheel. Anything that does that, would be characterized as distracted driving. And we want to promote engaged driving. We want folks, again, just as I mentioned at the top of the hour, we want for folks to be engaged in that driving task when they're driving, because it's absolutely critical to be able to navigate a lot of different situations safely. Impaired driving, fairly self-explanatory, but that does address not only alcohol impairment, but also drug impairment, whether that be prescription or illegal drugs. And, one of the things that I'll mention about this, and I know that folks in this community know this well, impaired driving, and a lot of people will discuss about whether or not they think all of the other crash types are 100% preventable. Impaired driving is definitely 100% preventable. We can not only from the standpoint of the driving portion of it, but working to prevent impairment outside of the driving function also would contribute to preventing impaired driving. Occupant protection, still a big opportunity in Kentucky. While we have somewhere near, as we have worked on our observed seatbelt surveys, we've had somewhere near 90%, between 85 and 90% for the last 5 years on our observed seatbelt usage when we do those analyses for NHTSA. We still see that over 50% of vehicle occupants who are killed in crashes are either unrestrained or not properly restrained. That's a humongous opportunity for us to prevent serious injuries and deaths, is by helping people to understand the benefits of wearing their seatbelt and actually getting them to do so. Roadway departure. This is anytime your vehicle is going to leave a lane, its lane of travel, and either go off the side of the road, go into another lane, go into opposing traffic or anything like that. And then vulnerable road users, I'll touch on this just a little bit. So these are folks that are not in cars or trucks. So think motorcyclists, bicyclists, pedestrians, folks who are riding like scooters and mopeds and things like that. And we've combined those up because there's a lot of common ground between, in how to do prevention activities for those. And obviously there's things that are individual to each one of those populations as well. But there's a lot of common ground there where we may be able to make quite a bit of headway in preventing crashes with those vulnerable road users by looking at that from a combined standpoint. I'm not gonna take a long time here, but I do have a series of these are pages from the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and each one of these emphasis areas has a 2-page, as I've displayed here for aggressive driving. It's intended not only to be informative for the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, but also to be used as a primer for this type of highway safety challenge and the opportunities that it presents. So if you're interested in any of these, they're in the document that I'll link in the chat at the end in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, but we also have these available for download on the Office of Highway Safety website. So there's, again, one for distracted, one for impaired driving. Just want to call your attention down there in the bottom right, that, again, impaired driving, definitely 100% preventable. Occupant protection, I didn't mention when I discussed this just a second ago, but occupant protection also covers child safety seats. So whether that be a car seat, rear facing or frontward facing, a booster seat, et cetera, those are also included when we talk about occupant protection. And I'm going to take just a second here, and Steve, I'm going to count on you if you can't hear this video. I'm pretty sure I've got the sound on, but if you can't hear the video, please stop me so that I can correct that. But this is a video from our Buckle Up, Phone Down campaign within the Office of Highway Safety that highlights, obviously, both distracted driving and occupant protection, and talking about this is from the perspective of somebody and the lesson that they would learn about the power of their example. So I'm gonna play this video quickly.
That boy of mine's just like me. I love football, he loves football. My favorite color's green, his favorite color's green. I put ketchup on my eggs, he puts ketchup on his eggs. Everything I do, he does. I guess that's why they say like father, like son. Well, unfortunately, I didn't wear my seatbelt. And neither did he. Nothing's going to be the same ever again. So, please, to all the parents out there, make sure you show your kids what a good driver does. He buckles up and puts the phone down. Make sure they understand that it only takes a second to change your life forever. Be safe, Kentucky. Buckle up. Put your phone down.
You know, when we talk about highway safety in a lot of different ways, you know, messages that we deliver, we never know which type of message is going to reach someone. And so while we always have to be on message, we have to be creative in the way that we deliver those. And I show that video both because it's powerful, but also because we've gotten just a tremendous response from that particular one about the fact that oftentimes we'll have someone come up to us and say, you know, when I've been told about seatbelts and things like that, I've really never considered what my not wearing one might mean to someone else, like say in my family or someone else that may be looking to me to provide an example. So I just wanted to share with you, you know, that's a part of a campaign where we actually did 4 spots. We did that one. We did one from a mother's perspective, playing, quote, the seatbelt game with her kids. We did one from the perspective of a coroner, and then we did another one from the perspective of a jockey. That was a lot of fun. And so, you know, when we talk about ways to get people engaged in preventing serious injuries and deaths, particularly here related to car crashes, but in any area, we have to remember that not every message is going to resonate with every audience, and we just got to keep trying to reach people as much as we can. So here's our 2-pager, if you will, for roadway departure. And again, just these are really great statistical items and talking about opportunities that we have. One thing that I will mention is that based on feedback that we got from Dr. Bush, a lot of times when we talk about transportation statistics, we tend to do that in terms of vehicle miles traveled. And Dr. Bush encouraged us to look at that based on a per capita basis or per 100,000 population, so that we could better interface with other public health partners, because that's the way that they tend to look at those items. And so again, we're trying to make connections not only within, quote, the traditional highway safety community or the transportation community, but with public health professionals from around the public health sphere as well. And then again, our vulnerable road users, really excited about this. I really do think that there are a lot of things that are common to the highway safety challenges or opportunities for these particular groups that we're going to be able to work together to address, to make a lot of difference and prevent a lot of serious outcomes quickly. And then we're also going to be able to do individual focus on these areas as well. One other thing that I'm going to add here, it's not explicitly mentioned, but another vulnerable group that we have are those who work out on our roadways and our work zones, whether that be, you know, say transportation employees or consultants or contractors, folks that are out there doing public works type of stuff out on our highways. They're another vulnerable road user as well. So talk just very briefly here about the way that this is intended to work. And so we have to have an interdisciplinary approach if we're going to be able to have as much positive effect or as much benefit as we can. And so we're looking at strategies across what would be considered, quote, the 4 E's of highway safety, as well as public health. And so education strategies, strategies related to emergency medical services, strategies related to enforcement, strategies related to engineering. And so, and then also, the ability when called upon to discuss with the legislature, what legislative strategies might be out there in other areas or in other states or other jurisdictions on those topics as well. So one other thing I do want to mention is that I know that this group is very in tune with the use of data in order to inform decision making. And we have lots of different data in our traffic records forum, which is called KTRAC, is a great opportunity for us to discuss data across different organizations. And there's a lot of people that are either represent organizations that are a part of KSpan or that are on this call today that participate in our traffic records forum, and just want to very much appreciate the partnership there. Our decisions are able to be better informed, the better data that we have and the better connected that data is. So we just really appreciate that. And so I want to kind of start closing up here by laying out kind of a call to action. And so when we talk to different folks, or when I talk to different folks about highway safety, a lot of people say, well, I don't work for the Office of Highway Safety. Sorry, I'm pointing to the wrong side here. I don't work for the Office of Highway Safety, or I don't work for the Transportation Cabinet. So, maybe that's not something that I need to be directly involved in. And I'm going to tell you, you may not have driven anywhere today because we're having a remote meeting, but almost everyone is a road user at some point. And so, we ask that you look at partnering with us in the 3 I's. And so me personally, I can help by getting informed about safety. And that's what we're doing today, not only about highway safety in this webinar, but also about other types of safety in the rest of the KSpan catalog from today. Get involved with improving safety. And I know each one of you're involved in all types of prevention activities. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here with us today. But I would love to have you involved in improving highway safety. And then this last one kind of goes back a little bit to the video that I showed earlier. Get intentional about the example that I set. Okay. And so this would be the point in the presentation, if we were doing it live and in person, where I would ask, did anybody speed on the way here? Did anybody do a rolling stop through the stop sign, not use your turn signal, run a light that maybe was a light shade of red as opposed to green? And, I can tell you that folks in your community, they know who you are, they know what you do, and they know that you're involved in prevention activities. They know that you're involved in health activities. And the example that we set behind the wheel is often something that can pay positive benefits if we're intentional about that example that we set. And so as you're out there driving around, I would just ask you to be intentional about that and think about not the fact that people are watching you to get you or anything like that, but just the fact that when somebody sees other people doing things in a responsible manner, what that might encourage them to be able to do. So one of the key parts of our implementation of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and a key way that you can get involved, is that each one of those 6 emphasis areas has a task force. And we are working on, we have 2 of them established, the one for impaired driving and the one for occupant protection. And we are working on the establishment of the other 4. So aggressive driving, distracted driving, roadway departure, and vulnerable road users. And we would love to have people from this group participating in those efforts. They're meant to be interdisciplinary. So we're not just looking for engineers and public health professionals. We're looking for people from around the spectrum that can help inform these types of activities and help us do the most good with the resources that we have. So we would certainly encourage you to get involved. We're going to be convening these other 4 task forces. We're going to have activities starting to spin up in January. We're going to be creating an action plan and coordinating not only with other agencies such as the ones you represent, but also with local officials, local governments and those types of things, because, ultimately all of these things from a safety perspective are implemented at a local level. Safety is local. And, safety is really made up of millions and millions of trips, right? And so we want to make sure that we're not only looking at it from a statewide perspective, but we're supporting people in localities doing what they can in their own communities. So if you have interest in doing that, you would like to participate, or you have someone that you work with that you think would love to participate, I'd ask you to send them my way. This is my contact information. It'll be available. And, we really look forward to working with organizations such as this one and with individuals such as yourself to make a real difference out there in our state, in our local communities related to preventing serious injuries and deaths as a result of transportation related crashes. So, Steve, I'd really like to thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you to the K-SPAN board for allowing me to come and present today. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, we do have one question from Annabelle. Is there any data showing that pedestrian refuge islands encourage crossing outside of crosswalks?
Not that I have particularly seen, but that's not something that I had particularly looked into. So I will take a note of that. And Steve, if we have contact information for that person, I would be happy to get back to them with any data that I can find.
Okay. No, we have contact information with Annabelle. So
Great.
Just get with me and I'll be happy to forward that on. Do we have any other questions? You can use the question and answer, or you can use the chat box, either one. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. I want to thank you, Jason, for providing an excellent presentation today, and thank you for your support of K-SPAN. I do want to mention that we do have another webinar tomorrow. It is Suicide Prevention Updates from the Kentucky Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities. It'll start at 9 a.m. You can go to our website, www.safekentucky, all spelled out, one word, .org, and you can register for that webinar. I would be remiss if I didn't mention also that through the generosity of the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety, they have helped us in promoting and providing some funding for communities on checkpoints. Checkpoints educates parents and teens on GDL requirements and about risks teens face when they first start driving on their own. Funding is available. It's from October 1st through 2020 through September 30th, 2021. Communities working in new counties can receive up to $500 for completing the application and providing a letter of commitment from the school where checkpoints will be targeted. And then upon a successful completion of checkpoints class, the community school would be eligible to receive an additional $750 for a total budget for a new school of $1,250. We will also continue to support those communities that have already implemented the checkpoints program, and that would be at a $750 level. And that's just to provide the community a few resources to help promote the checkpoints program. So with that, you can contact me, Steve Sparrow, and I'll be happy to reach out back to you and try to make that happen. So,
Steve, can I say one other thing? I apologize. I missed.
Oh no, you're fine.
There. So, while we definitely want to involve your organizations and you personally in our efforts to prevent serious injuries and deaths through highway safety activities, if you have activities that you're doing that you think would be that we would be able to help with by coming and engaging in your activities as well, you could also email those to me, and we'll see what we can do to put together a plan to participate in your efforts as well. When we look at highway safety, certainly we know that there's a lot of opportunity there from the prevention standpoint. And so if there are places in your organization or in your activities where you think that highway safety would be a good fit to assist you with those, we would be more than happy to have those discussions. So thank you.
Okay, any questions from anyone? And with that, thank you all, and thank you, Jason, for an excellent presentation and for the support of K-SPAN. Thank you.
Thank you again.